You see me now, the veteran of the 1,000 OGL wars. My mind is a window. I thought there was nothing left to explore. But someone went and asked, are there just too many games? Oh, please, let's look at the news. What's up, nerds? It's Friday, and normally at this day I talk about what's new with Paizo or Kobold Press as we continue the countdown towards 2024 D&D. But as I was looking at the stories today, I saw a whole smorgasbord of things I thought we should talk about. And the number one thing that stands out to me and just sort of, is this one. ARKHAM Horror, the role-playing game starter set. So if you're not familiar with ARKHAM Horror, it is a series of ridiculously huge, complicated mega board games, you know, the kinds with 10,000 parts and cards and maps and things. And yeah, I think if you put down the base game and every expansion, it fills like 2 tables. It is so big and there's so much going on. So they have announced that they're doing their own role-playing game. It'll be coming out sometime around Gen Con. We'll see the starter set. It's them and Asmodee. It's Ed Studios, the same people who bring us the current StarCourse stuff. It's a D6 dice pool system. It's based upon the ARKHAM Horror role-playing game, board game. No, not the ARKHAM series of video games. No, not Batman Arkham series of video games. No, it's based upon the ARKHAM Horror board game, which I just explained to you. The weird thing is, of course, that ARKHAM Horror board game is based upon the Arkham setting from the writings of H.P. Lovecraft, which, of course, led to Call of Cthulhu. And the interconnection between Call of Cthulhu and the ARKHAM Horror role-playing game is very clear. It's even supposed to be called a living. It's a living role-playing game. I don't know what that means. So we have a role-playing game that spawned a board game and a series of video games. The board game that spawned a role-playing game. So basically, here's another take of Lovecraft Call of Cthulhu. Because there's not enough. Now, I've played ARKHAM Horror. It is complicated. It is one of those, you know, pretty European games with lots of parts and lots of cards and maps, and one turn can take a month. You know, you don't just play it in one setting. You play it over like multiple weeks, kind of like Diplomacy or Axis and Allies. Especially if you're playing with the expansions. It is fun. It is intensive, but, you know, it's obvious that the Lovecraftian connection is there, and then you can't look at it without thinking, well, Call of Cthulhu and all the other Cthulhu role-playing games. But now we have a new ARKHAM Cthulhu role-playing game. And yeah, I'm confused too, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it could be good. It could be good. I don't know. Speaking of Cthulhu, segue, bam! How do you think, apples? This was announced yesterday, day before yesterday. The creators of Call of Cthulhu, CHAOSIUM, are sponsoring a contest. Win up to $2,000 for CHAOSIUM's Design Challenge. Design challenges from role-playing game companies roll around, you know, every now and then, about once a year. Wizards has done some, a couple other ones. This one, on the other hand, you get to, your creators are invited to submit a pitch, a budget, outline, market analysis, selling points of a proposed new game using the basic role-playing game engine, draft the game and art. If anyways, you retain ownership of the work and are free to publish the game yourselves. That's completely different than most of the other companies that have done these. When Wizards of the Coast did there for Eberron, Keith Baker pretty much gave it up. When Legos did their D&D one last year, that person lost the rights of ownership to the Lego creation that they made for the Lego D&D crossover. Usually when these contests happen, you lose the ownership. Your only claim to fame is whatever prizes they give you and the fact your name is on it. You can go to conventions and go, yeah, I wrote that. You can sponsor talks about it. Chaosium is going, no, you still own it. In fact, you could publish it yourselves if we don't pick it. And if we do pick it, you can still publish it yourself. So Chaosium is saying they'll publish your game, but you could also publish your game if you wanted to. So we're going to give you $2,000 for a game, but then you're also going to be able to retain the rights to the game. That's as far as I know, is pretty fucking awesome. And it's basic role playing, which, as you know, Ad Hoc, myself, and several other people consider it one of, if not the best role-playing engine ever created. Miles above Dungeons and Dragons. Basic role-playing or D6 is my desert island game. You know, Marvel Superheroes Phase Rip might be my favorite game, but if I'm trapped on a desert island or someplace where I have access to only one game and I want to run a multiple series of genres, like 1 week people want to play fantasy, it's either, you know, I'm either going, well, yeah, the core basic role playing, you can do anything with that system. Or if I don't have access to basic role playing and percentile dice, a D6 system. But yeah, so, you know, that's my desert island system. So obviously, check it out. See if I can do another segue. Nope, that was it. All right, what else is going on that pointed out interesting to me? Oh, this one. So our friends over at Kobold Press, the creators of Tales from the Valiant, which is now currently, congratulations, the most anticipated tabletop role-playing game of 2024, and probably the #1 contender for alternative to D&D 2024, 5e, should the 5e players be frustrated with 2024 D&D. They've announced they're doing a brand new starter set, which of course leaves the question, what happened to the old starter set? How can it be? You haven't done a previous starter set, so how can you say it's a new starter set? Why don't you just say it's the starter set? Here's the starter set, then here's the core rules. It's them and Steamforged. Unusual choice, Steamforged, because they normally make board games, and the few times they've tried to make role-playing games, they failed, i.e. the horrible 5e adaptation of Dark Souls. They do make the Epic Encounters series of bundled miniatures, which I absolutely love. But yeah, so them and Kobold and Steamforge are doing the starter set. What will the starter set include? Probably the usual starter set stuff. You know, a broken down basic rule set of the Tales for the Valiant rules, probably some dice, pre-generated character sheets, maybe a map, a pre-generated adventure, stickers, because stickers obviously make everything better. And it'll run like $22 to $44. You know, it'll be in a box, and it'll be like, here's the baby step to Tales of the Valiant, and then here's the actual Tales of the Valiant. But, you know, this baby step will have stuff in it that the Tales from the Valiant actual one doesn't have, like the pre-generated characters. And let's face it, the Dungeons and Dragons 5e starter set brought us Mines, which is, you know, the best 5th edition adventure Wizards of the Coast has made, Mines of Fendelver, and its sequel, which is, you know, not as good as the original. But hey, at least we know if it comes with figures, the figures will be excellent, because Steamforged makes the Epic Encounters series of figures, and those things are freaking awesome. Unusual wording, but okay. I would pick up a starter set for Tales for the Valiant if it's reasonably priced, because it's, you know, I think it's safe to say that Tales from the Valiant is the #1 contender. I mean, if D&D 2024 has got the lead right now, simply, I mean, it's not like people are excited about it. It's just simply that it's the only one in the race, right? It's like everybody else is going, okay, well, we know 2024 D&D is coming out in 2024. We're pretty sure, 80% sure, that we'll get at least one book. All these other companies have said they're making a game in 2024, but so far, only Tales from the Valiant looks like it's ready? Question mark? So I guess it's the most anticipated game that isn't D&D, because at least we know we'll see something, unlike all the other ones, which are just kind of like, maybe we'll see that Brandon Sanderson game. Maybe we'll see DC 20. Maybe we'll see the Doom role-playing game. Maybe we'll see all these other games that claim they're coming out this year, but now it looks like they're not coming out to next year or even further. We already know Daggerheart's been pushed back to 2025. So there goes its slot as most anticipated. We know MCDM won't even see the light of day till late 2025, so we can't say that's the most anticipated. So really, the most anticipated tabletop role-playing game for 2024 that isn't D&D is Tales from the Valiant. So congratulations to them. Speaking of things that are coming out in 2024, Pathfinder has announced that the Gallowspire Survivors will be available on Steam. Yes, I know it's already been available on Steam for several months, but now it's available on Steam. It's launching April 4th. You can get it now. Yes, I know it was already available, but now it's available again. Or maybe it's just finally the finished version, and the version that was on Steam for the past couple months was a beta test. If you're not familiar with this one, it takes place in the Pathfinder universe. It takes place in a dungeon called Gallowspire. It's a top-down rogue-like endless dungeon crawler, similar to, if you remember, Gauntlet. Gauntlet would probably be the closest comparison, or other rogue-like top-down games where you pick a character, that character gets somebody to follow them around, a bot that like shoots things, and then you just sort of run around and zap things and they drop stuff. So it's, Vampire Survivor meets Pathfinder meets Gauntlet. I think it's up to 4 players can play. And last time I checked, it was about $30. So yeah, that's now available. I know it already was available, but it's still now available. Links to everything I'm mentioning, of course, down below. And finally, just in case you haven't missed me talking about twice already this week, we have the thing that came from NASA. And I talked about that NASA is the sister organization to NASA. NASA being the National Aeronautic and Space Institute, NASA being the National Over Space and Attitude. I don't know. So this thing from NASA, and I talked about it the day before yesterday, and I said that between that, what publishing, and this one, and today, I bet myself $1 that there will be at least 3, if not more, follow-up posts / videos about this, and people will get the information wrong. And it should come as no surprise that that is exactly what happened. Between the time I posted my video on Wednesday and this morning, I have seen not 3, not 4, several dozen posts and comments and videos and Twitters and Reddits, and everybody seems to be getting the information wrong, from the most common misperception that it's in a complete role-playing game system. It's not. To the second most common misconception about this game, that it is a 5th edition game. It's not. It is not a 5th edition game. If you look at the actual game, you will see, as we showed you last week or earlier today, it does not have the 5th edition Wizards of the Coast mentioned anywhere on here, other than it says it's referencing the fact that the system is old, 50 years, popular, and it says it's level based, but there's no levels or any actual information numbers wise. Yeah, I can't imagine who said that. It probably is still saying it. Yeah. So this is a stat. There's no stat blocks. It's just information. It's a one shot. It's really to show people, hey, it's NASA. We're still cool. It's the anniversary of the Hubble telescope. Look at all these great pictures it's sent. We know people play D&D. It's 50 years old. We play role-playing games at NASA. A lot of NASA engineers play role-playing games. So we want to just make this thing, this little one-shot thing to, talk about the anniversary of the Hubble telescope, talk about the discoveries, talk about the advancements in tech, and, just have a little fun with this very weird scenario of the Hubble telescope disappearing and then crashing on a fantasy world and how that might affect, which is, I think, would be great. There's a great campaign starter for a multi-setting, how does Earth deal with the Hubble telescope being on a fantasy world? How does fantasy world deal with this giant space thing suddenly crashing on it? It's like Expedition to the Barrier Peaks. Plus, it teaches you science. So, as I said, again, in closing, I said on Wednesday, I'm betting myself $1, at least 3. And then Jeff over at Jeff Gamesbox backed me up, and he said, yeah, at least 3. Well, I guess I owe myself $1 because, as I said, I've seen at least half a dozen comments, videos, whatever about this, and they're pretty much all wrong. So again, let's go. Okay, I already started. Let's go. It is not an official Wizards of the Coast product. The Wizards of the Coast copyright thing is nowhere on it. It is not written for 5th edition because there is no stat blocks. It could be used with any fantasy system. It was actually written by people who work at NASA, and people who work at NASA do play role-playing games. I grew up in California. I have played role-playing games with engineers from JPL, from the base, from NASA. I know I grew up with a kid playing Villains and Vigilantes for however years, who's now an engineer at NASA. NASA, there's a lot of nerds at NASA. Wow. And a lot of them play games. It's not a new thing. It's not like people keep saying, well, I bet they're just trying to be woke. And it's like one engineer apprentice went up to the boss and said, hey, this D&D thing is cool. We should make an adventure. Now, chances are the boss plays too. And that people are saying, oh, Hasbro is buying NASA. NASA's buying Hasbro. Wizards of the Coast is buying NASA. NASA's buying Wizards of the Coast. NASA's trying to take money away from Hasbro. And just some of the other ones. And nobody seems to see anything positive about this. Nobody just looks at this and goes, wow, here's a kind of cool starter adventure that I can just throw down that works with any system, that's got a really unique proposition, that teaches me some science shit I might not have known, and reminds everybody that, hey, NASA's cool, okay? The space program is cool. When we were all kids, we loved the fucking space program. The 8-year-old in you is salivating over the fact that there's a NASA role-playing adventure. Astronauts used to be cool. Neil Armstrong was as cool as Mick Jagger. They were the sex symbols of the 60s. Going back to the moon, going to Mars is the most important thing we can do for the next couple generations, because Earth's running out of room. And if we don't start expanding into space, we're doomed, you know? Plus aliens, you know, and all the cool spaceship stuff, that's all waiting for us. We've just got to remind everybody that NASA's fucking cool. But I guess I am the only person who has seen this and gone, this is cool, this is positive, I love this. But then I'm also the only person who thinks the CDC's guide to zombie survival is fucking cool and awesome and hilarious. I think this is cool. I think it's awesome. The 8-year-old in me who wanted to be an astronaut just loves this. It's salivating this. I want to play through this. I want to run this. I love the idea of the Hubble telescope vanishing. I love the idea of using an adventure to remind us about science and teach us science and remind us that NASA is still there. The moon is still there. Mars is still there. We are still trying to live up to the promises we made in JFK time about the space race. We need to go to space. And, you know, everybody thought that was cool, but now NASA releases an adventure and everybody's just dumping on it. But anyways, I owe myself $1 because you fucking marks made videos about it and comments about it, and you got every single solitary thing you said about it wrong. Did any of you bother to read this? And I'm assuming he's talking about Garrity. And I bet you Garrity didn't read it because Garrity's saying, oh, they're trying to take money away from Hasbro. It's free. And it's not a D&D adventure. It doesn't even have the Hasbro copyright stuff on it. It is a system neutral fantasy game about the Hubble telescope disappearing. So yeah, that's all the tabletop role-playing game news that I didn't think I would be doing today. More victims of the OGL wars. We've got the Kobold Press Tales from the Valiant book coming out sometime between now and Gen Con with them and Steamforge Press, which means if nothing else, at least the figures will be cool. Probably should pick it up. We've got the CHAOSIUM contest, which is great. Whoever wins, you know, gets 2K. But in unprecedentedly, you also get to keep the rights to the game. I don't know if any other game company that's done a contest like this has done that. And then we have the very weird Arkham Horror role-playing game, which is based upon the Arkham Horror board game, which is based upon the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. So it's a role-playing game about a role-playing game where you do the exact same thing that you do in every other Lovecraft-inspired role-playing game. We're a bunch of normal people, and we're going to go investigate weird vampire zombie tentacle beast things and get killed. Hey, every engineer I have met, I have played Dungeons and Dragons with tons of engineers, tons of people from the base, tons of people from JPL. I played Travelers, superhero games. I mean, I grew up with a kid who went on to work at NASA. So anybody who's saying nobody at NASA plays games or it was one person, I assure you probably most people at NASA have played Traveler, Call of Cthulhu, D&D, Villains and Vigilantes, and other games because, yeah, they're engineers, and engineers are nerds and dorks and awesome. Get us back to space. All right, that's it. I talk about Paizo, which I normally do on Friday, but Paizo is remaining relatively quiet. They're not really doing much of anything. They're just posting their weekly updates of what's going on with their organized play and the next product we have coming out, which is good for them. Just avoid controversy, Paizo. Just, weekly. The only weekly news we need to see from you is, hey, this is what came out this week. Nothing else. Nothing else, Paizo. Do not be Wizards of the Coast. And I urge every other game company in the world to look at Wizards of the Coast and what they're doing and then do the opposite. Just do the opposite. If Wizards of the Coast is talking about something, don't talk about it. If Wizards of the Coast is not talking about something, talk about it. Paizo is being very smart in that all they're doing for the last couple of weeks is not doing much of anything. They're just telling people every week, that's it. We made more stuff. This is what's live on our PDF. We're just going to avoid controversy by being quiet. Speaking of controversy, I'm the OGGM. If you appreciate this controversy, let me know. Don't forget I have a members channel now. Did you know that? I have a members channel now. So if you want to hear me talk about subjects that I don't talk about normally, you could pay me $4.99 a month for the privilege of hearing me talk about things that I am completely incompetent about talking about. You want to hear me talk about politics? Sure, I'll talk about politics. I have absolutely no expertise in that area, but that's what you want me to talk about. I'll talk about it. You want me to talk about the Matt Mercer thing? Again, no expertise, but you want me to talk about it? I'll talk about it. Want me to talk about toxic clout chasers and Scott Garrity or anything else? Again, sure, I'll talk about it. It'll cost you $4.99 a month. See ya.